Good morning, good evening. My name is Leopoldo Stuardo. I'm a scientific coordinator on animal welfare at the WOAH headquarters in Paris. And first of all, I would like to thank the organizers of this event for inviting me, especially in the framework of the commemoration celebration of the World Rabies Day. Then I think that the topic of my presentation will be quite in line with the topic of the celebrations that you are conducting today. Then I will prepare some slides that we're going to share with you. As I mentioned, the topic of the presentation is the WOAH international standards on dog population management. Always is interesting to know more about our organization. The World Organization of Animal Health, WOAH, was founded in 1924 as the Office International des Épizooties, OIE. You have to know that probably you know already that the acronym was changed in the last general session to really put in line the acronym with the name of use, which is the World Organization of Animal Health. Then the WOAH was funded to provide international cooperation and coordination against the spread of animal disease. Today, counted 182 members, and is recognized as the reference organization by the World Trade Organization in any trade dispute in animals and animal products dispute. In the year 2000, the mandate of the WOAH was extended to veterinary public health and animal welfare, and since then there is different sections in the code that recommend standards for animal health, veterinary public health, and animal welfare. The OIE also have the headquarters in Paris, and there are 5 regional and sub-regional offices around the world. In terms of welfare, it's important to mention, and also it's also the case for the dog population management, that this is a complex and multifaceted subject with a scientific, ethical, economic, cultural, social, religious, and political dimension, which makes this topic quite difficult and quite challenging also to implement. The WOAH and animal welfare strategic engagement started in, as I said, in the year 2000. In 2002, the members of WOAH granted the mandate to the WOAH to start working on animal welfare, and especially because, and it is mentioned in the guiding principle for animal welfare, there is a critical relation between animal health and welfare, and also there is an ethical responsibility when you are using an animal, and you need to ensure their protection to the great extent possible. Additionally, in 2017, the WOAH members adopted the Global Animal Welfare Strategy with the vision that a world where welfare of animals is respected, promoted, and advanced in ways that complement the pursuit of animal health, human well-being, socioeconomic development, and environmental sustainability. This vision is quite in line with the concept of one welfare, and it's also quite in line with the sustainability concept. The WOAH strategy, it's built in 4 main pillars. The first one is the development of animal welfare standards. The second, capacity building and education. The third, implementation of animal welfare standards and policy. And the fourth, communication with governments, organizations, and the public. Then these are the 4 pillars also in which the WOAH animal welfare activities are developed. I will only focus on the first one, because this I'm going to talk about the revised chapter of 7.7, which is an animal welfare standard included in the code text. But also there is other standards already adopted since 2004, mainly in relation to farm animals, but there are also other chapters that deals, for example, with the use of animals in research and education, and the welfare of working equids, apart from the dog population management chapter that was initially adopted as stray dog population control in 2009. This slide, I would like to include it because it shows quite graphically the process of the development of standard, which is quite open, transparent, and also participative. And you can use the link that is included in the slide to watch a video that is quite informative about the process of how standards are developed, and also review, as it was the case of this chapter 7.7. As we already mentioned, the chapter was revised and changed names. Now it's the population management, and it was adopted in the last general WOAH general session in May this year. The main changes were that the scope was redefined to focus on the welfare of dogs when implementing the population management programs. The objectives also were rewarded and updated to take into consideration WOAH activities around dog-mediated human rabies, which is quite important to put in line both chapters 7.7 and 8.14. And also the terminology was harmonized to be consistent with other code chapters. Also, new articles were added and reorganized in the structure of the chapter with a wider scope to ensure also to include the most updated scientific guidance. Additionally to this, an important change was the replacement of the term stray dog in the glossary of the terrestrial code with the free roaming dog, which is any owned dog or unowned dog that is without direct human supervision or control, including feral dog, because this definition reflects more the content of what is now in the revised chapter, which is based on the behavior of a dog which is roaming without restriction, but doesn't imply any ownership status. Just to show you the content of the revised chapter, you can really access to it in the link that is in the slide, and give you an idea of the different articles that are included in the revised chapter. I will go through some of them. The ones that probably are the most important in terms of the recommendations that are given. For example, the scope is to provide the recommendations for the management of dogs, Canis lupus familiaris populations, to improve human health and safety, animal health and animal welfare. This is to minimize the potential negative socio-economic and important economic environmental impacts. The recommendations are also tend to assist the implementation of dog-mediated zoonotic disease control programs, in particular infection with rabies virus, in accordance to chapter 8.14, as it is the endorsement, the WOAH endorsement of official control program for dog-mediated rabies, in which the inclusion in the dossier of a dog control program, it's requested to submit the dossier to request the endorsement of official control program for dog-mediated rabies. The dog population management have an holistic approach that aims to improve the welfare of dogs, reduce the problems they may present, and create an harmonious coexistence with the people and their environment. Then DPM supports effective and sustainable rabies control programs and control of other zoonoses, as we already mentioned, and this was one of the main objectives to review the chapter. Recognize also, and this is quite important because it tends to be a problem in our members, that mass culling of dog is ineffective and maybe counterproductive in reducing dog population size. It's not effective a means of reducing rabies prevalence. This has been widely discussed and widely also documented. Promotion of responsible dog ownership is one of the aspects that the chapter reinforced in terms of the recommendation, because it strengthens the owner motivation, knowledge, and therefore the behavior in caring their dogs, including timely rabies vaccination of unowned dogs to maintain the immunity. Then it's important to manage dog populations without compromising animal welfare in according to the chapter 7.1, which is the introduction to animal welfare, where the guiding principles for animal welfare are included. In terms of the guiding principle for the dog population management, this has a direct benefit to public health and safety and to animal health and welfare. Then there is as also in the introductory part of the section 7, there is an ethical responsibility to ensure the health and welfare even in the after of ownership in the case of dogs. Also, it recognizes the diversity of stakeholders that participate in the management of the population. Therefore, it's crucial to clarify the roles and responsibilities. Dog psychology is linked to human activities. Therefore, DPM should be accompanied by changes in the human behavior, including the promotion of responsible dog ownership. Also, as a guiding principle, the owned dog population is a common source of free roaming dog. Therefore, DPM program should consider all the population of dogs. Local dog population dynamics and community attitudes is a key element in determining whether how a dog population program might contribute to rabies control and which tool would be the most successful. Also, sources and drivers of free roaming dogs and management goals differ across community. Therefore, DPM should be individually tailored to local and national context. This is quite important, and it is quite relevant and a common aspect around also animal welfare chapters. DPM programs should be designed to be sustainable in time, aligned with legislative requirements, and evaluated and adapted. In terms of responsible dog ownership, is also something that the chapter and the revised chapter wanted to be quite clear and highlighted it. Responsible ownership means the situation where a person accepts and commits to perform of various duties in accordance with the legislation in place, and focus on the satisfaction of some behavioral aspect, environmental aspect, and physical needs of the dogs. Then you need to provide resources and prevent risk that a dog may pose to the community and other animals of the environment. This is quite also important in some countries where the dog population could harm some native species. In the long term, responsible dog ownership is the key. Is key to the changes in human behavior that will allow to dog population management achievements to be sustained. Therefore, there is an educational aspect and the promotion aspect, and the education aspect for the currently owned dogs, and any offspring is produced for its lifetime or until the responsibility is passed to the next owner. And it's mainly based on the provision of the internationally known 5 freedoms. In terms of the promotion, the need to strengthen the owner motivation, knowledge, and therefore behavior in carrying the dogs, for a timely rabies vaccination of owned dogs to maintain the immunity. That will be the goal. Now, in terms of the participants, we would like to focus on the competent authority for dog population management. Here we focus on the development of DPM that occurs at the local level through the specific DPM programs, whose success requires a supportive and enable environment created by the competent authority at the national level. Therefore, everything goes in line from the top to the national level, and also the national level also need to be in contact with the rest of the different stakeholders. In terms of governments, DPM is the responsibility of the competent authority, which may or not the veterinary authority, and national action plans need to provide details of the actions which support the implementation of the DPM programs and coordinate with other plans like the ones related to zoonosis. These plans also are led by the competent authority and developing in collaboration with a multi-stakeholder group, as there is other groups that are participating in this activity. There should be a suitable support of a regulatory framework to implement the DPM programs. Also, the competent authority need to have support to enforce the legislation through guidelines and training and funding to the enforcement agency, and also to define the penalties. Therefore, funding also is an important aspect, which they need to be sufficient at national to fund the National Action Plan and the DPM programs. Also, to support the DPM programs, the competent authority should lead on the training of professionals and veterinarians to ensure that they going to have access to appropriate, for example, veterinary medical products for the implementation of the DPM measures. And also, competent authority should support DPM through a national communicational and educational initiative. This slide shows the could be a little messy, but shows the different levels in which the DPM programs touch different stakeholders, from the Public Safety Security Agency, the Public Health Agency, the Environment Protection Agency, the Veterinary Services, and the Veterinary Authority, including which is the co-governmental authority coordinating the implementation of the WOAH standards. In terms of the objective of the DPM programs that are in the chapters, we highlighted the responsible dog ownership as a key aspect in terms of the objective that the DPM programs need to include, but also the improvement of the health and welfare of the population, the reduce of the numbers of free-roaming dogs, the stabilization of the dog population program, the risk to the public health and safety aspect, and the contribution to eradicating the dog-mediated human rabies, which is here the key aspect to highlight. Also, reduce nuisance, prevent harm to livestock, and prevent illegal trade and trafficking of dogs. Now, in terms of measures, this is a combination of following of measures that should be used for a successful DPM program, like registration and identification of dog, regulate the commercial dog breeding and sale, the movement of dogs at international and national level, the promotion of responsible dog ownership as a measure also, not necessarily as an activity, the reproductive control, here using the strategy of catch, neuter, vaccine, which in addition in this well-known acronym, and return. Then in the past we were talking about catch, neuter, and return. Now we have added vaccination as an important measure to be done while developing this activity. Also, the aspect of the reuniting and adoption of dogs, the access to veterinary care, and environmental controls and education on safe human-dog interaction. This recommendation of DPM measure should be implemented in accordance also with the national context and local circumstances. Always important to note that. In terms of DPM activities, may be required then for the implementation of the DPM measures, and this one could be the dog capture and handling. There are more recommendations on how to do this in the new chapter. Dog housings aspect, and as a last resort, the euthanasia, which is defined as the act of inducing death using a method that causes a rapid and irreversible loss of consciousness with minimum pain and distress in the animal. This is the definition that is the WOAH glossary of the code. And what are the main challenges that the implementation of the chapter are facing? It's important to understand the social aspect of human-dog interaction. Dogs participate in the society in different roles as hunting, guide, guardian, sentinels, companion animals, etc. In some cultures also, the dogs are considered part of the society, integral inhabitants of the multi-species cities, and can also involve positive and negative or neutral interaction. Therefore, it's important to understand this interaction in between humans and dogs for having a successful DPM program. Also, it's important to, and a key aspect, to understand dog ecology of the population, to better define specifically also the vaccination program and also the DPM strategy. Dog population can vary across countries and local scales, and even within the country. Then understanding the composition of this dog population and identify which are these categories the cause that dog-related problems will help to decide which DPM and vaccination approach should be considered. For example, whether to choose a central point of sterilization, vaccination, or capture a sterilized release program. Going back to euthanasia, we already mentioned the definition that is in the code. It's important to understand that euthanasia of dog use alone is not an effective DPM activity. Reducing dog population size is not an effective means of reducing the number of cases of rabies. We are here focused on the rabies aspect. Euthanasia should be conducted under always supervision of a veterinarian to ensure also animal welfare and operation safety. The personnel that conduct this euthanasia should have a complete understanding of and proficiency in the restraint aspects, euthanasia methods, confirmation of death, and disposal of dead animals. You can find that in the revision extensively in some articles of the revised chapter. And in related to the topic of euthanasia and talking about mass culling, rabies is not density dependent. So mass killing is not an efficient and effective strategy for reducing the density of the population. Scientific studies show that the spread of rabies in low density dog population is similar to spread in high density population. Therefore, reducing dog density is not an effective controlling for rabies. Culling healthy animals can result also in an attendant negative consequences on both animal welfare side and disease control side. Mass vaccination then is mass dog vaccination is the most cost-effective way on controlling and eliminating rabies, and that is the main message that we wanted to send here. Now, more in general, and to finalize, in terms of welfare aspect for the challenge that the WOAH is faced to implement these chapters, is the complexity that this topic have, with important scientific, ethical, cultural, religious, economic, and political dimension. Also, it's essential to have a scientific base, but always for the adoption, implementation, other factors need to be considered, because the WOAH is trying to address animal welfare in a global basis, not for one specific country or region. Then it should be relevant to all members, the standards, and also the population for different animal welfare, public health and safety issue, even also in within a country. WOAH standards are not also a legislation itself. That is quite important. Members tend to understand that. They are the text that are in the code need to be adapted for the local conditions. Finally, apart from thank you, I would like to acknowledge my colleagues Paolo Tallavila from the Brussels office of WOAH and Monal Daptar from the Science Department at the WOAH headquarters for the support in the preparation of this presentation. Then, thank you very much. Muchas gracias, and I hope that the event will be a complete success. Thank you again for the organizers for the invitation.